Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Diaries of a 20-something. I'm Paige Marquez, your host, and today we are going to be talking about something a little more personal. We're going to be talking about all things that revolve around comparison, and I'm not so much talking about comparison in the physical attributes or anything like that. I'm more talking about success and what you're doing with your life and things like that. Throughout college and even now, I was always comparing myself like, am I doing enough? Am I involved enough? Should I be doing more? Why am I not busy like everyone else? And I think doing that over time can really play a significant role in how you view success and can put a lot of pressure on yourself as well. And I think it's a really natural thing to do, like just thinking that you're not doing enough and you're not preparing yourself enough. So stay tuned. I just want to say this as like a blanket statement before we really get into this. Comparison can be a good thing. It can be motivating, but of course, on the flip side, it can also lead to negative emotions and just not being happy with yourself or how your life is going. And I think social media plays a big role. You know, you're scrolling through your feed, you're seeing people go on vacations and people getting their first job, whatever the case may be. And then it's natural to always be like, oh, I wish I could do that, or why can't I do that? But I think it also has a lot to do with like I can't speak. I think it also has a lot to do with the pressure to conform to what society expects of us. A good example of this is like not going to college, even though it's like, I don't want to say the right thing to do, but like the more traditional path, I guess you could say. But a lot of people are choosing not to go to college anymore, and like that's not a bad thing, like that's fine. But I think that there always will be a pressure, you know, like throughout your entire school career, everyone's like, go to college, go to college, go to college. And some people just don't. Some people choose other trades, and college isn't always necessary. My best friend, for example, she did cosmetology school instead of college. Like I think honestly, as long as you're doing something that's going to build your career, it doesn't matter if it's like traditional or not, as long as you're able to do it. But going back to the whole social media thing, like we are exposed to like a constant highlight reel. And I don't know about you guys, but my screen time is definitely higher than I would like. It's a lot less now that I'm, you know, working full time and always busy. Like I don't have time to be scrolling through social media, but you know, there are some days like today where I don't work today. So I have a lot of time of my hands, which is great, but also not, especially when you're in a state of always trying to distract yourself, which like I've been going through a lot mentally recently. But you know, day by day, every day gets a little bit better and a little bit easier. But that is why honestly I really like private stories, because yes, it's still social media, but it does give you a more realistic look into somebody's life. Like I think private stories, and like remember like Finstas, loved Finstas, I think those are great examples of what social media should be. Obviously, there should be a line of what you should share on the internet and what you shouldn't, but I like how authentic it is. And I think if social media as a whole was more authentic, then we wouldn't be struggling so much with comparison. But at the same time, I feel like social media recently has been trying so hard to be authentic, it's almost making it worse. Let me know if you guys relate to that, because I just feel like everyone's like, oh, like, let's try and be more real, like more real on social media, whatever. But like, it just comes off as even like more like you're trying too hard. Comparison can lead to negative emotions, clearly, like depression, inadequacy, anxiety even. And when you're constantly measuring what you're doing with your life or your success, whatever you want to call it, to what other people are accomplishing and doing, it can create like a false sense of failure and disappointment. There's always going to be someone doing better than you, always. And like, that's just how life is. And this is something that like I've always struggled with a lot, like comparison in regard to not physical attributes so much, but like success. This goes beyond just like success and what I'm doing with my life, but I've always set very high expectations for myself, and doing so often leads to disappointment. confident because I set the bar so high. And then when it never measures up because the expectations are always a little bit unrealistic, it's like horrible. Like I feel horrible about myself and I feel horrible about what I'm doing. After college, I was applying to like a billion jobs and nobody was hiring me. You know, like I had this expectation of getting a job at like a top magazine and like being like an assistant editor or a writer or whatever. And that just wasn't the case. And that isn't the case 90% of the time, unless you know somebody or was a prior intern. It just leads you to be disappointed in yourself when you shouldn't be. And it takes away all the things you have done up to that point. I think there's like key signs to note or notice that you're feeling when you're falling into a comparison trap. I think a big one is jealousy, like feeling jealous when others post their accomplishments or their achievements, being like overly concerned with what other people are doing, and just like feeling inadequate or disappointed with yourself and what you're doing. And like I said, this was something that was so big for me during the job search because I spent like all day, every day on LinkedIn. Like everybody is just like, oh, I've done this, and I've done this, blah, 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 whatever. And I would just be like, I can't even get a job. It sucks, but it's life. And like doing this, like constantly comparing yourself can sabotage your self-esteem to such a level to where like you don't even know what you want anymore. It can also distract you from what you have accomplished and your growth. And it can create unrealistic expectations for your life. Like back after college when I was applying for jobs, I was crying all the time because I wasn't getting a job. I just felt so disappointed in myself and so unhappy. And I think that had a lot to do with comparison, and I couldn't see that then, but now I do. It fully distracted me from like just being happy with what I have accomplished. Like I didn't even ever sit there once and was like, I just graduated college. As soon as I graduated college and even leading up to it, I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to be congratulated for it. I just wanted to get a job. Like I didn't even let myself enjoy the moment. And like I said a little bit earlier, like I feel like the comparison trap can happen at such a subconscious level, especially now when we're exposed to people's lives all day, every day. But I think it happens on such a subconscious level, it can be hard to figure out like what triggers it while you're dealing with it. I think like common triggers could be like when someone gets a job, when someone moves to a new city, when someone graduates college, like things like gets a promotion, like things like that. Those are things that instantly come to my mind as like obvious triggers. Everyone's going to be different and everyone's going to have specific things. Like if you're someone who loves to travel and like lives to explore, I would think that seeing people travel would be a trigger. I like traveling, but it's not like my biggest thing. Like I love being home. I love routine. Like I love travel. I love exploring, but at the end of the day, I don't want to be traveling more than like once every couple months. But it's also like reframing your perspective. I feel like if you kind of change it from asking yourself, why am I not doing this? It's more like, how can I do this? You know, like turning it from a disappointing feeling and a feeling of inadequacy to like a feeling of motivation rather than like a measure of your worth. It's just really important to be able to focus on your own path and celebrate the small wins, because the small wins are low-key everything. The big wins are great, yeah, but you would not get a big win if it wasn't for a million small wins. Acknowledge other people's success, but don't let it diminish your own. Get comfortable with your path and just trust it. I believe that everything happens for a reason to an extent. I do think that there has to be some effort. You could also like set boundaries with social media, you know, limiting screen time and just avoiding accounts that tend to trigger you, I guess. Maybe just follow accounts that motivate you rather than showing an unrealistic lifestyle. But it's also like practicing gratitude, which I have been trying to do in all aspects of life recently. Honestly, like side note, I love being this age. I love being in this part of my life because yes, I'm confused all the time. And I honestly, in the grand scheme of things, have no idea what I'm doing. But I'm learning so much about myself and what I want and what I don't want and what I like and what I don't like, what's good for me and what isn't good for me. I just love this time period. But anyways, yes, practicing gratitude is really important. It's so easy to dwell on the negative parts of our lives and get hung up on what isn't going right in our lives when there's often just as much, if not more, good things happening. And like, I'm not saying like ignore all of your negative feelings or negative things that happen to you, like I think you should be thinking about it in order to process it and learn from it and move on. But there's definitely a line between processing it and dwelling. I've been trying to find that balance recently. The fact of the matter is that success and fulfillment look different to every single person. You're never gonna have the same exact goals as somebody else, and you're never gonna want the same exact things as someone else. Your journey is unique, and comparing timelines and comparing your life to someone else's is almost hostile. It just comes back to celebrating the good things, feeling gratitude and accepting and celebrating the small wins and focusing on what you could be doing now to get to where you want to be, rather than just sitting in your room and being like, oh, I want that. Like, no, then get up, get out of bed and go do something about it. It's just turning a disappointment in your life because it's not the way that someone else's is to having someone else's life motivate you. Make a list of things you want to accomplish. I personally love lists. There's something about checking the boxes that really excites me. But yeah, make a list of things that you want to accomplish and just do it. Do small goals. I'm not talking about big things because that list could take years, decades. Today, for example, I'm going to show you guys. I have a to-do list for today and I've been following it and I'm on number 2 out of 6. Some of them are time consuming, some of them are not. I just really want to encourage you guys I just really want you guys to be able to reflect on what you actually want from yourself and what fulfillment is to you without any external validation or pressure or influences. So yeah, comparison is tricky. It's good and bad. It can be motivating. It could be awful. But I think it all has to do with mindset and setting boundaries. It is okay to not have everything figured out. I think that's the beauty of being in your 20s, and everyone's journey is unique, and I think that is what makes life so special. If you're watching this and if you're feeling behind or that you're not doing enough, I'm here to tell you that you are. You're not behind, you're just on your own timeline, and that is perfectly okay. If anyone older is watching this and has any advice to younger viewers, or if you relate to this or have a little story to share, let me know in the comments below. Next week, I feel like I kind of want to do a Q&A episode. So I feel like I haven't really sat down with you guys and really covered a lot of bases. One of my friends texted me and was like, can you do a Q&A episode? Because I have so many questions. So I'm just going to do a Q&A episode next week. Follow the Instagram, send in your questions. Could be about anything. Let's just get to know each other on a better level, because I feel like I'm coming up here all the time and preaching all this stuff to you guys when you guys don't really know anything outside of what I've told you. Thank you guys so much for watching. This was Diaries of a 20-something, episode 16. I can't believe we're here already, and I will see you guys next Friday.